Hey guys, Matt, Trend number 943. In today's video, we're going to be checking out this Norfolk and Western ALCO Century 420 from Lionel. Okay, so we'll start off this video much like all the other reviews that I do. I'll go ahead and give you guys a brief history of the engine, and then we'll take a look at Lionel's model after that. Okay, so the history on the C420 is pretty interesting. Now, before I talk about the C420 itself, I just want to tell you guys that the ALCO Century series that this locomotive is based on, there were a ton of production models from the Century series. They had the C420 all the way through the C643DH, and they had a couple non-production models in there as well. And what I'll do, I'll link the Century history and I'll link the C420 history in the description because they're two different articles. Anyway, getting back to the C420 history, the C420 was a road switcher locomotive, was built by ALCO, given the name. There were 131 of these made. They were made from June of 1963 to August of 1968, and they replaced the RS-32 that ALCO had. Okay, so the C420, it was a very popular model from ALCO. I'll run down the list of the original owners, or at least some of them anyway, and then we'll talk about some other things about the C420. So some of the original owners include the Erie Mining Company, the Lehigh Valley, the Long Island, the Louisville and Nashville, Nickel Plate, Norfolk and Western like we have here, and the Tennessee Central Railway. A couple interesting facts about the C420s. One of them was that since 2005, roughly 30% of all the C420s still exist. Now, some of them that were ordered by certain railroads, including the Mississippi State Export, the Nickel Plate, and the Piedmont and Northern, were all scrapped. And another fact was that the two units that were delivered to the Piedmont and Northern became Phase 2 units. Now, I guess that they have Phase 2s and other different phases. There's a chart that I'll link in the description so you guys can see that. I don't know how to read it or anything, but I guess they have other phases, so that's pretty cool. Okay, so we'll quickly talk about preservation for these engines, and then we'll talk about Lionel's model. So the Lehigh Valley has 3 of these preserved, the road numbers on them being 405, 408, and 414. Now, number 405 and number 414, they're both at the Delaware-Lackawanna Railroad. They're both being currently used. The number 408 is at the Southern Appalachia Railway Museum as a leaser unit. Long Island has 1 preserved and 1 actually active. They're both at the Utica Railway Museum. And the numbers on those are 220 and 213. Louisville and Nashville has 2 of them preserved. They're both at the Southern Appalachia Railway Museum, which actually, I'm kind of curious to check that out now, because between this and a couple other engines, there's a lot of them preserved at that Railway Museum. I believe it was E8s that they got a couple preserved there, so I might be checking that out sometime. That sounds really interesting. So, in any case, numbers 1310 and 1315 are there. The Seaboard Airline has 1. It's preserved at a scenic railroad in Independence, Ohio. And that's it. So, now let's take a look at Lionel's model of the C420. Okay, so this C420 was offered in Lionel's 2007 Volume 2 catalog. Some of the highlights include TMCC control with Rail Sounds 5. It's got Odyssey speed control on it. And it's got DC CAN motors, so it runs really good, which is great to see. It's got smoke unit, marker lights, headlights, number boards, pretty much all the standard diesel lighting features. It's got a road number of 417, its length is 15 inches long, and its minimum curve is 031, so this engine is very appealing to small layouts. Oh, and if you want another unit to go behind this powered one, Lionel also made a non-powered C420. It looks the exact same as this, with the only exception being the road number. The road number is different. It's number 418, And also, being a non-power, there's no sound, smoke, or none of that. There's nothing inside it. But if you want another unit to go with this, that's your other option. Or I'm sure if you wanted to, you could buy this again if you wanted to lash 2 up or whatever. But they only come in 1 power number. But that's that. So anyway, let's take a look at some detail on this engine, and then we'll run it for a little while. So let's take a look what we got. Okay, so let's start off by taking a look at some details on this engine and see what this C420 has to offer for us. We'll start off by taking a look at the pilot. On the pilot, we'll start off by taking a look at these running board steps. These look really good. We have these brake hose details, which are just hoses. They look really good. Then we have the operating electrical coupler. This can be thrown using any one of your Lionel remotes. And then I'm not sure where you guys can see, but we have some MU cables on the other side. On the side of the pilot here, we have these steps here. Now these do not have any drainage holes in them, but they should look good. And then this bottom one here has this white stripe on it. Moving down past the pilot, we have one of the 2 B-type trucks on this engine. These trucks are very nicely done. They have some cylinder detail here, and they just look really good. They even have some spring detail, and even a little step applied. They look really good. In the middle between the 2 sets of trucks, we have this fuel tank. Now the fuel tank does not have any sort of painted gauges or anything like that, but it sure looks nice. What I like is I like these little black lines on the side here. I'm pretty sure these are like pipes or something like that, but they should look good. I'm not exactly sure what they are. If anyone knows, please let me know. We were to move back a little bit towards the cab area. We have the same nicely done B truck. It looks really good, and it looks the same as the other one with the cylinder detail, the steps, and the springs. It looks really good. And then finally we have the rear pilot. We have the same detail as before with the steps. Now again, these do not have any drainage holes in them, but they should look good nonetheless. We have the MU cables. You can see these a little bit better. We have another operating electrical coupler, and then now on this side here we have the air hose detail. Now this is a little harder to see, but it's there anyway. Oh, one thing is, at least on mine here, is worth mentioning, is this coupler here. Now, as you guys can see, it's sagging a lot. Now, this does couple the cars, but I want to know if there's any way that I could raise this up somehow to get it like this. That's how it should be, but mine is all the way down there. I don't know why, and I'm not exactly sure how to fix it. If anyone knows, please let me know, because it kind of bugs me that's like that. Okay, moving up past the bottom of the engine, we have this first set of handrails. These look really good, and we also have a safety chain here. That looks really nice. Now I like the fact that the chains are silver, because all the other handrails are blue, as well as the paint job is blue, so I think that kind of sets it off. And then we have this little red knob here. I'm not exactly sure what it does. If anyone knows, please let me know. We were to move up some more. We have the nose of the engine. Now this is the engine without power on. Let's turn the power on and see what we get. Okay, so I turned the power on so you guys can see the lights, but before we get to the lights, we also have these grab iron pieces. These go up the length of the engine to where the headlight is. Then we also have the N&W logo. Okay, so now that the power is on, you guys can see the lights. So what we got going on here is we have our number board lights. They read 417. We have the headlight, and then we have these marker lights. Now, you guys really can't tell in the video what color they are, but they're like a orangish color. Now, it's the same story on the back of the engine, and these do not change when you hit the direction button on the Legacy. So, but what I'll quickly do while I got the power on is I'll show you guys the back of the engine with the lights, just to show you guys. Okay, so here's a look at the lighting on the back. Now, as you guys can see, it's the same thing as on the front. We got the number boards, the headlight, and then we got the marker lights. Now, it may be a little bit easier to tell in the video now what color they are. They're like a burnt orange, but they don't change when you hit the direction button. So if I was to hit the direction button, now the engine's currently in forward. If I bring it into reverse, The headlight goes on the back, and the marker lights don't change. Now in the catalog they said that they changed. They had the bicolor marker lights, but maybe that's not the way it came to production. But in any case, this still looks good. But what I might do to change it though is I may change out the lenses. I might change them to red and green. I'm still kind of thinking about that, but if I want to, I might do it. We'll see. But I kind of like the way it is now, but we'll see. And the headlight's an LED, but it's kind of weird because the headlight is not really like super bright. If I was to bring it in forward, so this rear one goes off, you can see that it's not like super bright. Like you can almost tell that it looks like the headlight's on even in reverse, even though it's really not. Now it's on, now it's off. But oh well. So in any case, let's get back to some detail on this engine. Okay, so let's take a look at the side of the engine now. Now I'm sure you guys can already guess this, that this engine is a long hood forward. So here's our F for front, and then towards the back of the engine here we have these radiator vent sections. Now these are not see-through, but they should look really good. And then right down here we have a safety treaded deck, and then we have these handrails. Now I'm not exactly sure why Lionel did this, but these handrails are really thick. They look good, but they're really thick. So one of the things that surprised me when I first took this engine out of the box, besides how nice it was the thick handrails. That kind of caught me by surprise. I wasn't really sure why Lionel did that. Of course, if anyone knows, please let me know. Okay, I've zoomed in on this section for you guys so you guys can see this a little bit better. So what we got going on here is we got the rad cab area. Now the rad cab on real engines is where the traction motors, the engine, and all the associated stuff with running the locomotive is. But we got some really nice detail here. We got these doors with these panels on them. Now these doors don't open, but I tell you what, these sure look really good. And then we have here this little vent here. I'm not exactly sure, but it's got some screening in it. Now this is not see-through, but it sure looks good. And then we come to the Norfolk and Western name, and this looks really good. And then you guys can see some more of the rad cab detail, and then here's some more of that screen work. We got 3 screens here. These look really good. And then you guys can see a little bit better now the diamond treading on the walkway, and then here's a little more of the handrail work. Moving down a little bit more, now we're towards the cab area of the engine. We have another one of these screens. Now this is not see-through like the other ones, but it still looks good. And then we got a little bit more rad cab detail. It's not as good as it was over here, but it still looks good, so I can't complain. Looks really nice. So now we got the cab. Now as you guys can see here, we got a door here with the windshield wiper on it, and then on the cab area itself here we have a sunshade. These windows here, now these windows don't open or close or anything, but they still look good. Then we have what would be windscreens, but they're molded into the body. We have the Norfolk and Western logo, the road number 417. We got this very nice hatch work. Now these hatches don't open, but they sure look nice. Then we have this ALCO builder's plate. I've went ahead and turned the track power on so you guys can see inside the cab a little bit better. And what we got going on here is we got the crew guys. Now since this is a long hood forward, the crew guys face the way the train runs, so in this case the crew guys are facing towards the front of the engine. That's pretty cool. Moving back behind the cab, we have another door with a windshield wiper on it, and then we have another one of these molded doors. Looks really good. And then we have some more handrail work, and then we have these steps here. Now these do also have the diamond treading on them. They look really good as well. And finally on the back we have our lighting features, which again are the number boards, the headlights, and the marker lights. And then we also have the same ladder detail that leads up to the headlight. And then we have the Norfolk and Western logo. And then we have another set of the handrails with the safety chain, which again, the safety chain is silver. Then we have another one of those red knobs. Again, I'm not sure what that does. If anyone knows, please let me know. Okay, so now I'll take a look at the top of the engine. Up on top, this is a battery hatch. Now we'll take a look at some detail real quick before we take this piece off and show you guys what's underneath. But these screens up here are not see-through, but this part here, this is see-through. It looks really good. If I was to take it off, now this is a little tricky to take off. You kind of have to. Oh, that time it came off easy. There it goes. So you guys can see it looks really good. So now let's take a look at what we got underneath here. Okay, so here's a look at what we got. Inside here we have a spot for our 9-volt battery. Now that's used to keep the sounds alive during power interruptions. Then we have our volume control. Then we also have the first of 2 motors. And this hatch, it's just kind of held in place by these, I guess they're spring clips. I'm not exactly sure, but it just gets put back on there like that. Moving back past the battery hatch, we have a smokestack. Now this does lead down to an operating smoke unit, and to fill it you just pour your fluid directly down the stack. Now I found this out by accident, that this little smokestack piece actually comes out, and then you can fill your fluid down in there. That way you won't make a mess all over the top of the engine. That's pretty cool. Now this is just lightly glued in there, and it just slips back on like that. And then coming up some more, moving past the smokestack, we have this panel here. Now this panel is very nicely done. We have screens on either end of it, a screen here and a screen here. Now they're not see-through, but they should look good. And then we have these little boxes here in the middle. They do something on the real one, I'm sure, but now on the legacy models, this hatch here actually comes off for the controls, and in a minute I'll show you guys the new legacy models. We have one, and I'll show you guys how it kind of compares to this one. But the controls on this one are underneath the engine. They're underneath the cab area here. There you guys can see we got the run program, the smoke switch, the Odyssey speed control switch, and the sound no sound switch. On top of the cab we have a very nicely done horn, and it looks really good. And finally we have this rear panel here. Now the only thing that's in here is this. Now I believe this is, I guess, like an auxiliary generator or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but in any case it's open and you can actually see a little bit inside the engine. That little bit of light that's shining through is actually powering these lights up front here. But I'm not exactly sure why Lionel kept it open, because it doesn't do anything. It's just there for looks. But I'm sure if you wanted to, you could cover that. But just wanted to point that out real quick. Now I know it isn't the fairest comparison in the world, but I'll quickly show you guys how the detail has improved on these C420s from the 2007 model, which that's the Norfolk and Western, to the newer 2012 model, which is the Lehigh Valley in the back. Now what I've went ahead and done was I went ahead and turned the C420 around, so if it was pulling a train right now it would be running in reverse. But I only did it just because it's a little easier to show you guys the detail instead of, you know, going back to this one and then the front on this one. So I turned it around just so you guys can get a better idea. So let's take a look quickly at some detail, then we'll run this bad boy. Okay, so the battery hatches up on top, they're the exact same thing. The only difference really is that they're different colors. Other than that, they're the same. And then if we were to look at the front on here, we have the ladder or grab iron detail work. And then on this one, these class lights here, they don't work all the time. They only work when the engine, when this rear part of the engine isn't forward. So these lights are only on when the engine's going this way. Then the handrails, they're pretty much the same thickness. I'm not exactly sure as to why. You would think Lionel would have changed them, but I don't know. But in that case, they should look good. The detail is pretty much the same other than that. Now again, as I said, on the newer ones the hatch comes off for the controls. You can see the controls are down in there. But other than that, they're the same thing, and that's mainly because it's the same engine. But there really isn't any need to change anything, because they're just solid pieces now. The trucks are still the same, the fuel tank is still the same, so that's that. So these models are awesome. So one of these days I'll get to reviewing this bad boy. I just haven't done it yet, but I will eventually. I just want to show you guys mine here. So in any case, let's get this Lehigh Valley out of the way, and let's go bring this bad boy to the upper level and give it some running time. Okay, so now that I've taken a look at the details on this engine, let's go ahead and get it fired up. Now, since this is a TMCC, you can run it off the Legacy if you want to. That's how I'm going to be running it today. Now, being a TMCC, there is no extended startup, so we'll go and get it powered on here. Alright, so that's your startup. Sounds pretty good. Here's the horn. Here's the bell. Here's the RPM levels. Okay, so those sound pretty good. And finally, before we go, we'll listen to some of the crew talk. Now, I know some of you guys don't care for the crew talk. I really like it, and one of the reasons why I bought this engine, besides being a high hood C420, is that the crew talk, it has the Rail Sounds 5 in it, so it's got the intelligible crew talk. So it's got the road name and road number in it, which is something that Lionel doesn't do anymore. And I really wish they would, but sometimes you gotta stick with these older ones or some of the older legacy units to get the train specific dialogue. But in any case, let's give a listen to crew talk.
417, trying to hold our schedule, waiting for a green light. Over. Stand by, 417, you are up next. Over. Okay, dispatch, 417, out. Norfolk and Western, 417, there is track work in progress. Please stand by. Over. Okay, dispatch, 417, out. 417, am I clear? Over. 417, you make it mark. Over. Thanks, dispatch. Cleared outbound. 417, out. 417, you are good to go. Over. Roger, cleared outbound. We'll take the green. 417, out.
Okay, tower said we got a clear signal, so let's get some cars behind this thing and run it. Okay, so we're all set and ready to go. Now behind the engine, I've got just a mix of MTH Premier Line freight cars. I got some box cars, some hoppers, some tank cars, some Norfolk and Western coal cars. Now we've got like 18 of those, but I didn't pull them all out for today's video. If you guys want to see those, I can run those with this engine, or we have a Norfolk and Western SD70 ACE. If you want me to run those with that, I could do that. But in any case, I got like 4 or 5 of those on there. And at the end, we have a Sioux-Line caboose. We have a Norfolk and Western one. I just didn't put it on for today's video. But anyway, let's go ahead and get this thing running here.
417, you make it mark. Over. Cleared outbound. 417, out. NW 417,
But anyway, guys, that about wraps it up for this review. This engine is very solid. It's a very nice piece, and I'm very glad I have it. Now, if you're interested in purchasing one of these engines, the retail on these engines was right around $430. And if you can find one of these, it's a really nice engine to have. And if you're a Norfolk and Western collector, then this will be right up your alley. I got this from Nicholas Smith Trains for $300, although at this current time they're out of stock, probably because this was the only one he had, but I'm not sure on that. But in any case, that's why I got it, so you can get it from him or whoever else. Now, they also made a Long Island version a year before this. They made that in 06, and this one came out in 07, and the horn and the crew talk are totally different on the Long Island. If you want to see the Long Island, I'll put a link to it in the video description, done by DJ's Old Gauge Trains. He has that one. But in any case, this engine's great. So that's gonna wrap it up for this video, guys. I'm Matt, train number 943. We'll catch you later. Okay, so now I got some cars behind this engine. I've got just a mix of Premier Line cars from MTH. I got some 50-foot box cars, some hoppers, some tankers, and a Sioux Line caboose at the end. Now I got a couple Norfolk and Western coal hopper cars. We've got like 18 of them. I didn't pull them out for today's video, but